Hi, my name is Lena Dempewolf, and I am the Biodiversity Specialist at the Environmental Policy and Planning Division of the Ministry of Planning and Development in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm also a pollination ecologist, and today I'll be talking about pollination in Trinidad and Tobago, the activities and lessons learned post BES-Net Caribbean Regional Trialogue on pollinators, food security, and climate resilience. So first off, I'd like to talk about who was at the trialogue, and they were from our country, representatives from the Environmental Policy and Planning Division of the Ministry of Planning and Development, the Beekeepers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago. I also attended, but as an independent person at the time, I was there just in my capacity as a pollination ecologist. So during this trialogue, we developed an action plan for different countries, or each country developed their own. And in our case, the elements included improving pollinator conditions, such as reducing pesticides, improving habitats, increasing and improving food sources, and engaging in citizen science, transforming agricultural landscapes. So we were looking at trying to create biophysical accounts, doing surveys, creating a model farm, using bee hotels, and so on. And we were looking at transforming relationships between society and nature in terms of education and awareness. In terms of the activities that have occurred since that time, we've been in discussions with the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board about the use of pesticides that are harmful to pollinators, and lots of presentations were done in the public sphere. For instance, at the World Food Day that was hosted by the FAO, Novo is a private energy company that requested a talk on bees and bee removal. We talked at the World Ozone Day. The National Institute of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, which is NEHRS, had a science week where we did a talk on pollinators to schools. There was a UWI guest lecture at the University of the West Indies. We talked at the Beekeepers Association, the Field Naturalist Club, and the UWI Biological Society. So there was lots of public engagement. We also started an iNaturalist Science project, which I will talk about a little bit more in a bit. And we hosted a stingless beekeeping workshop at Wasamaki Ecosystems, which is a private organization that focuses on teaching permaculture. And we also, I also started a pollinator NGO, which is the Caribbean Alliance for Pollinator Conservation, that is hopefully at some point going to start doing some work in this area. Additionally, Dr. Homer also conducted an orientation on key findings of the IPBES pollinators assessment and the action plan that was created, as well as the iNaturalist page to the All Trinidad and Tobago Apiculture Cooperative Society Limited at the World Food Day exhibition and at the Training and Information Services Division of the Ministry of Agriculture. So to talk a little bit more about our citizen science project, we have created a project that is called Pollinators and Pests of Trinidad and Tobago on the iNaturalist platform. And we have engaged locally with a number of persons. We have done a lot of presentations to get people to join iNaturalist and to join the project and post their pollinator observations. We're asking people to take pictures of insects on plants, or birds on plants, or bats on plants, or visiting flowers. And we're asking them to record this and post these pictures. So we have sort of given instructions on as to how to do that. And it has actually gotten a pretty good response so far. In addition to this, I have also set up iNaturalist projects for the same thing throughout the Caribbean region. So every single Caribbean island at this point has a pollinators and pests of whichever island project. And they have also started to gain some traction. So we're quite happy about that development. So we've made quite a bit of progress in engaging stakeholders, particularly for upcoming BES-Net project on pollinators, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And in this regard, we've done quite a lot of workshops and presentations that has sort of engaged the public, and there's been regional interest in our iNaturalist program. So those have been quite helpful. In terms of the planned collaborations, we're looking at collaborating with schools, universities, ministries and departments, various NGOs, private companies, international organizations. So we've gotten quite a bit of feedback from various groups that would like to be involved with us in this project. In terms of the key issues that we've identified, generally it is recognized that management must occur over a range of habitats, landscapes, and land uses. And this is basically the feature or the main core element of pollination services, as a consequence of the fact that you have a large range of species that all perform one service, and they all cross a number of landscapes, land types, land uses, and interact with a large number of stakeholders over even their daily lives, let alone over a lifetime. And as a consequence, pollination services must be managed for diversity, and it's not just one or two species. And this is an issue with regards to stakeholders, because lots of stakeholders will interact with any given pollinator, let alone the entire service. So it is a sort of holistic approach that is needed, and this requires a very large stakeholder buy-in from a very diverse range of people, and this can be challenging in many ways. Very little data is currently available on Trinidad and Tobago pollinators, so that remains a challenge. There's been very little research done, and we need to work on increasing that amount of research that is available, so that eventually policies and so on can be based on pollination and pollinators. And as I said, it requires lots of buy-in from stakeholders and diverse groups, and legislation policies have not yet been developed, largely because there is no data, very little data available. So we are very excited about BES-Net affording us the opportunity to run a pollination project starting in January 2021. And there are several components of this that we would like to incorporate. One would be managing the effects of pesticides. We would like to effectively reduce the amount of pesticides that are used, especially the ones that are harmful for local species. We want to increase the knowledge base, so we're looking at working with universities and schools of various kinds to increase the amount of data that is available on pollinators, and not just insects. So we're also looking at bats and birds, and not just land-based pollinators, but we're also including a component on seagrass pollination, which is quite a novel research area. And we'd like to strengthen agricultural systems. So part of this is training extension officers and training government employees to train farmers in better practices. We would like to do lots of stuff in education and awareness. We have many things planned in that area. Stingless bee conservation is another area that we would like to quite heavily spend some time on. Stingless bees is a group of insects that produce honey that is very much prized for its medicinal properties. And these bees used to be very widespread around the island. However, it's been noted recently that numbers have been declining. Again, not officially, so it's just anecdotally, which is why research is necessary. But we want to reassess sort of what species are in Trinidad and Tobago, and we want to be able to help support livelihoods in this area as well, so that we can increase the number of hives that are present currently. We would like to create tools for future work. So there's lots of stuff to be done in terms of providing information on constructing bee hotels, on farming practices, on household practices, and chemicals and pesticides and so on, so that people can have the opportunity to use what we've created to do to build on that later on. And we would like to create partnerships regionally and locally to be able to continue to support the pollination service. And of course, a large part of this is the policy review component, where we need to look at where pollination can possibly be introduced in that regard. That's it for me. Thank you very much.